Okay. We'll just wait a little bit for everybody to trickle in. Sorry for we had a few technical difficulties, but I think we're set. Everybody's good?
Yeah, we are good.
Wonderful. That's great. Okay, well, maybe one more minute. Is it terribly hot in Toronto as well? I've heard that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Actually, today was a torrential downpour, so it was
wow. Okay.
quite nice.
That's good. I have family on the West Coast that is currently suffering. So, yeah.
What class do you teach of engineering, Jason?
Oh, well, I'm actually I'm a physicist by trade, but all the engineers need physics, so I teach that class. I'm not an engineer. I just am an engineering enthusiast, I suppose.
You're the precursor to the engineer, right?
Yeah, I'm I guess so. Unfortunately. I mean, not for me, but many students don't appreciate the physics class that they have to take before they get to the engineering.
That's so funny. Physics was my favorite class, and
I love it. It's
high school
great.
and undergrads. You got to do like finally real experiments and test things out.
That's true. Maybe it's because I'm a theoretician. I like the math a lot, so that could be why.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
Awesome.
I like working with my hands. I remember I made my first Rube Goldberg machine in physics class, right? Yeah.
So good. Okay. Well, let's get started here. It's 6:05. So welcome everyone. Thanks for taking time out of your evening to come and listen to this conversation between these two incredible individuals. My name is Jason Ho. I'm an alumni of the March of Remembrance and Hope. I'm the chair of the alumni committee, as well as an assistant professor of physics at Dordt University in Sioux Center, Iowa. But this evening here is definitely not about me. So for anyone in attendance tonight who's not familiar with the program, the March of Remembrance and Hope, or MRH, is an experiential educational program designed for university and college students of all religions and backgrounds and post-secondary education levels and programs. I'm a physicist, and I was joined by many others from all sorts of different backgrounds on the program. The purpose of MRH is to teach students about the dangers of intolerance through the study of the Holocaust and other World War II genocides, and to promote better relations among people of diverse cultures and faith backgrounds. During the main part of the program, students travel to visit locations in Germany and Poland related to the Holocaust. And whenever possible, students are led by a survivor of the Holocaust who share their stories in the very places they transpired. Elly Gotz, who's joining us today, has led MRH, is it 3 times now, Elly?
4 times, yeah.
4 times, okay, I'm missing one, okay. So 4 times since 2015 or 2014?
2015, I think.
2015, okay. Which is consequently when he and Daniel met for the first time. So Elly is an electrical engineer, an entrepreneur, a pilot, and an author who loves to understand technical systems and occasionally invent things. Daniel Szulc, am I saying that right? I'm sorry. Szulc?
Yeah.
Szulc. Okay. Daniel Szulc is a biomedical consultant and engineer who, in 2020, defended his doctoral dissertation at the University of Toronto in biomedical engineering under the supervision of Professor Hai-Ling Margaret Cheng. Since they met on MRH in 2015, the two have sparked a friendship over their shared interests in engineering, problem solving, and innovation. So our hope tonight was to highlight this relationship between these two people that have developed over the years, to listen and to learn from their stories and shared interests. Before I hand the conversation over to them, a quick bit of housekeeping. There will be a time near the end for any questions that you may have for Elly or Daniel. As they come to you, please just submit your questions through the Q&A function that should be available to you through Zoom, unless I messed up another setting, so we can address them after the conversation. And with that, I am going to get out of the way and hand the conversation over to Elly and Daniel.
Hello. Hi, everybody.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having us. And Elly, always great to have a chat with you. I know we haven't been able to have our in-person lunch in a while, so this is great that we can do it virtually now. So I just wanted to first say, like, thank you so much to the MRH program. When I went on in 2015, it was such a moving experience for me. I come from a Polish background. And so I knew my parents, were born just after the war, and all these experiences that they had to deal with, but they never really spoke about it. And so the MRH was a great opportunity to learn about those difficult histories with amazing individuals. And Elly, having you as my teacher, and that was fantastic. I got someone that would, really open my eyes to things I'd never considered before, but also did it in a cheerful way, in a manner that was digestible. And then along the way, we, while talking about, all the different things that happened along the trip, we also fell in love with our own passion for science and talking about engineering and all the different things along the way that were somewhat tangential, but then kind of became the mainstay to our friendship going forward. So I just wanted to say thank you to MRH and to Elly first to start off. So I guess the first thing I wanted to mention was kind of like, I remember, Elly, when we were going along, one of the things that really I was impressed by was while you were dealing with all these things in your past life, I mean, during the Holocaust, what was amazing is that your passion for problems and creativity and to solve those problems were a mainstay and a main part of your life. And I remember the very first example was when we were talking about your experience in the Kovno ghetto and how you had to be so ingenious to figure out solutions to problems. I remember the first one was you made some kind of kettle to boil water with just some wire and some wooden clamps.
Yeah.
Can you kind of remind me a little bit of that? I totally forgot about exactly what that was.
Daniel, first of all, I have to congratulate you on having gotten your master's and doctorate at very high speed this year. Congratulations for being a doctor of engineering in biochemistry. And that was really, I followed your work there from the time you were working on your master's. I used to visit you. I asked to visit your lab. I was very interested what you are doing, and you explained it very well. So you'll be a good teacher if you ever have to be.
Yeah, I remember that actually, those times when you came to my lab and we went from talking about, vinyl implantation to ultrasonic waves. And I was always so blown away, Elly, about your breadth of knowledge. And there were certain aspects that you were able to talk to me about and actually incorporate in some of my papers. And I acknowledged you in some of my papers because of the ability we were able to talk through those ideas. And I think that really showcased to me that, the passion for engineering and science is age unrelated. And you can always continue to follow your passions regardless your current position or what you're doing in life.
Engineering is wonderful. First of all, I want to put in a plug for engineers. With people, when you argue with them, they say, and I'm telling you something else. But with an engineer, if you argue and we don't agree, we say, let's get more facts, right? Engineers have a logical way, which is very annoying to the rest of the population.
It's funny, that's how a lot of our phone calls have ended, with both of us saying, okay, we're going to go do our own independent research to validate what we told each other.
That's right. You mentioned the ghetto. I'm a Holocaust survivor. I lived 4 years under German occupation. I was born in Lithuania and in Kaunas, the capital of Lithuania, and we were put in a ghetto. And 3 long years I lived in the ghetto. 30,000 people started. After 3 years, there were only 8,000 left. The rest had been killed. But you mentioned I was 13-year-old when I came into the ghetto. I finished grade 6. And my dream in grade 6 was to be an engineer and a pilot. I wanted to fly an airplane one day. I used to build model airplanes all the time. And now I was in the ghetto, and all kinds of things happened there. But I attended a school, a trade school. For 2 years, I went to learn metalwork, tool making, blacksmithing, locksmithing, all the metal trades. And I learned that. But while I was learning, I got an opportunity to work in a workshop and learned how to use a lathe. And we needed in the ghetto a way to boil water. So what people did, they took a stick and they mounted 2 pieces of copper on the edge, on both ends, and dipped it in water and connected it to electricity. And within a few minutes, the water boils. But the structures that people used to make were very dangerous. People used to electrocute themselves and get shocks, and it was terrible. So I made a very beautiful one. On the lathe, I made a beautiful handle on a piece of wood, a square piece of wood, and I found 2 carbon rods to put in, and I covered it with a cover so people shouldn't get electrocuted by touching the wires.
So considerate of you.
Popular. Everybody wanted them, so I was selling them. I couldn't make them fast enough.
But that's not the only thing you made and sold. Didn't you also make sewing machines at one point?
Oh yes, I became an expert in fixing sewing machines. You see, we tried to sell. People moved into the ghetto. They had whatever they brought with them, whatever they could. Then we found we didn't have enough food. So we wanted to trade with the peasants outside, the farmers. And the farmers used to come to the gate, or not to the gate, but to the fence of the ghetto. And they used to bribe the guards that they should look away. And they used to do business with us. And what they loved was sewing machines, only Singer sewing machines. We had all kinds of sewing machines, Silver, Pfaff, German make. So we used to fix them up because many of them were broken. And I learned to fix sewing machines, particularly to make new parts. Like, for example, the eccentric for a foot pedal, I had to make one from scratch, and it was quite a subtle thing to make. So I fixed the sewing machines, and then I got an artist to wipe off if the name was not Singer, and paint with gold letters, Singer, and then they could sell it to the farmers.
Early branding. I like that naming, putting that name in there. And yeah, and it wasn't just in the ghetto where your metalwork and your ability to think quickly and fix problems was essential to your life. Where when you were in Dachau, I also remember that was essential for you getting the right positions and able to also help your father, if I'm not mistaken.
My metalwork skills saved my life and my father's life. Because when we arrived in Dachau, they announced anybody who is a mechanic or a tool maker should come forward. And some people stepped forward. There weren't that many. And I was taken, I picked up my hand. They took me to a pump station, a huge pump station. 12 huge pumps were pumping cement, ready mixed cement through steel pipes to the building site. And I was in charge of pump number 1 of all 12. And I had a German Meister, a supervisor, who was a very kind man. He was wonderful to me. And I fixed everything. And sometimes I surprised even him because he was not a fine mechanic. He was a big machine guy. And one day the oil feeder pump broke down.
Okay.
It broke, the piece broke. And he said, oh, where do we get another piece? We can't find another piece. I said, give it to me. I can fix it. Nine, that's you can't do it. I said, let me try. I took the pump. I went to the main workshop. I needed a 3mm drill. It was a workshop for locomotives. They didn't have 3mm drills. I said, what's the smallest one you've got? They gave me a 5mm. I filed it down to 3mm and I drilled my hole and I made the part that I needed and I came back and it was working. The guy was so impressed. He was very nice to me. He gave me half of a loaf of bread and that was like gold.
Elly, I love how persistent you are, no matter the problem, right? When your supervisor, that's a trained mechanic, he's been doing it for the German military for so long, comes to you, you never give up and you keep pushing in. Even when the tools aren't there or the tools are the wrong size, you will constantly push. And I think that's one of the things that we always chatted about when I was working on my PhD and I was in the lab day in and day out trying to make different things work. And just for context to everyone, I was working on a project where I was trying to develop new MRI technologies to track implants in the body, both material implants and also stem cells. So I had to do a lot of genetic modification of stem cells so that they could produce unique elements that would shine up like dyes inside. And I remember always talking to Elly about this, and it would just be, and I would be very depressed some days, just couldn't get through. And no matter what the problem was, Elly always came with a solution or tried to give me an idea. And you never stopped pushing me. And Elly, I always remember that. And I really appreciated you during those dark days of the PhD. And I know Jason probably has some of those days and probably had great mentors as well. So that was, it really just shows, that an entrepreneur, an engineer will always push through and really constantly think of new ideas to try to solve those problems. Actually, that reminds me of another story you once told me about when after you left, after the Holocaust ended and you were leaving Germany, you had to travel through a few different countries to get the degrees you wanted. Is that not right?
I traveled through 3 countries before I got my degree. I was in Germany after the war. We were liberated from Dachau. My father very nearly died there. It was lucky that we were liberated on that day. Another day, he would have been dead. And we were living in a hospital, which was inside a monastery. And it took 6 months in hospital to get up from 70 pounds, which I weighed. My father weighed 65 pounds when we came out of Dachau, to 70 pounds to 110. And when I felt better, I went down to the workshop that the monks were running there because it was a huge farm, a farming area. And I came in and I said, I would like to work here. Can I do something? They said, we don't pay anybody. We don't get paid. I said, I don't want money. I just want the pleasure of working with metal. So they were very doubtful. First of all, I was a Jew and they were Catholics and they were German and they were scared of me a bit. They said, all right, come in, come in. I said, give me anything, what you want to do. So they gave me something very simple to do and I fixed it up and I was okay. And then I see them the next day, somebody brings in a huge lock. This monastery was hundreds of years old and the locks were really, I've never seen a lock like that. It was a huge lock for a door. Well, the doors were 12-foot doors. Everything was big. And the lock was broken. And I see 2 of them working and looking at the lock and they don't know what the lock, they don't even understand how it works. They opened the lock and they saw a broken spring and they shook their head. Nah, we can't fix that. I said, would you mind if I try?
I felt like those monks very often during my PhD.
Yeah. They looked at me. They said, do you understand that? I said, yeah, ich verstehe das. I understand. They said, go ahead. And I had to make a spring. There was no available spring like that. It was a spring which was a 1/2 inch wide, rolled up flat metal in a spring. And the spring was broken in 3 places. It was rusted out from 150 years ago. So I had to make a spring. I said, do you have steel band, steel strip? Nein, das haben wir nicht. We haven't got it. I said, okay, have you got iron strip? Yes, they have iron strip. Give me the iron strip. I went to the blacksmith's area and I started to hammer the iron. You know how Japanese make the big swords that they make? They fold the metal, fold it, they heat it up, they hammer it flat, then they fold it and they hammer it together and again and again. When you do that with iron, you are knocking out the carbon. Steel is iron with less carbon than steel, less carbon than iron. Iron is soft and steel is hard and springy. So by hammering it about 6 times and folding the metal, I made a piece of metal that was springy. Then I heated it up again and I rolled it in a spring and I fixed the lock. After that, they were watching me all the time and they were amazed at what I did. So I had a good time there. I enjoyed myself. I was working a little bit again. And then started to study. I wanted to be an engineer, I remembered. I had to overcome some problems. You see, I was full of hate. I hated Germans. I was going to kill Germans when I come out of hospital. Mm-hmm. But after a time, I gave it up. I said, you can't kill people in civilian in peacetime. And anyway, stop hating. You are thinking only about them. So I gave up hate. And when I gave up hate, I started living for the first time. I remembered I want to be an engineer and I've only got grade 6. So I went and I started to study. I hid the books. Mathematics, especially mathematics and physics and science, all the things, Jason, that you are studying. And I had to learn it all by myself. And then I found a teacher to help me, a German teacher. She was very kind. I told her I need a bit of help, and she helped me to learn the mathematics. I had some problems with one area of mathematics. And I also took a course in electronics. I learned how to fix radios. I took a 10-month course, and I learned how to be a repairer of radios. And after 2 years in Germany, sitting there, finally, I went to university in Munich and I said, I want to be an engineer. Can you give me an exam? Because I didn't have papers. So 5 professors sat there. There were other people like me, young people from the Holocaust. So 5 professors took me for 1 hour in an oral exam. And we went all the way from quadratic equations to Albert Einstein's physics. They checked everything. And when I came to Albert Einstein, I said, all I know about it is relativity and his name.
You don't remember his hair? I thought that would be the one thing everyone remembers.
Yeah, relativity. I knew the relativity. So they accepted me at university. And I came home and I said to my mother, hey, I'm going to university. I'm going to be an engineer. She says, you are not going. Why not? She said, we want to get out of Germany. We don't want to be here. I said, I know, but nobody wants us. No, nobody would take Jews. 150,000 Jews were sitting in Germany and couldn't go anywhere. Canada was closed, you know, America was closed. You couldn't go anywhere. So we sat in Germany and I said, where are we going? We can't get out. Until Israel was established in 1948. That's when 150,000 Jews got up and went. But this was 1947. 2 years after liberation in 45. Mm-hmm. So my mother says, we are going to Norway. Norway, yes, Norway said they'll take 900 Jews because they lost 900 Jews in the war. So we went to Norway, a new country I've never imagined, a new language. You have to learn Norwegian. They were very good to us. They gave us everything.
An interesting taste as well, I imagine, right?
So I had to learn Norwegian. And they gave us, students came and teaching a class. But you know what? Adults are slow learners. I couldn't stand it. The class was too slow. I went on my own. I took newspaper every day and I read it with a dictionary. And I used to stop any Norwegian that walked by and said, would you mind talking to me for 5 minutes? I have to learn your language. 3 months later, I spoke Norwegian. You see, I had 4 languages before. I knew Yiddish and Lithuanian and Russian and German. So it wasn't so hard. And I got a job. I was the first guy to get a job as a radio mechanic in Oslo. And at night, I went to night school so I could get Norwegian metric.
Elly, every time we talk, I just finished my PhD, but I feel so still quite inferior to you, Elly. Just everything that you've accomplished, the languages you can speak, your problem-solving ability, and it inspires me to always keep pushing and doing more. because I know your journey didn't stop there. You then from Norway, you had that was kind of almost like a vacation, because the next thing you knew, the next day you were in Rhodesia, were you not?
Right, in Africa. You see, my father wrote to a relative in Africa and he said, send money. My son wants to be an engineer and he has to work. He should study full time. And the guy says, I can't send out money after the war, you know. But he says, if you come to Africa, I'll make sure your son can go to university. I'll pay. So we got up, my parents and I, because of me, and we flew all the way. Not South Africa. They wouldn't take Jews. No Jews, no Catholics were wanted. So you couldn't have got in either, I suppose.
We're in the same boat. So you're flying now from the ice caps to the Saharan plains, the desert plains.
Right. We went to Rhodesia, Zimbabwe now it's called. But in those days it was a British colony. I arrived in Rhodesia. I have to learn English. I didn't know a word of English.
So now fifth language. That's the fifth language. Okay.
Yeah, that was it.
Just for everyone that's counting right now. I'm wondering how many we all speak.
Yeah. Well, that would have been number 6, English, you see, was number 6. So I got myself into grade 12 for 9 months. They didn't want to take me. They said, he can't speak a word. How can we have him in class? I said, don't worry about me. Just let me sit there. 9 months later, I got 86% for English. And I went to university in Johannesburg, South Africa, with Witwatersrand University. And 4 years later, I graduated as an electronic engineer.
So you finally got your degree, the thing that you've been striving for so long since you were a young child. You have your engineering degree, you're in a new country. What happens next? What do you do?
Well, I go back to Rhodesia and I expect to get a good job as an engineer to help my parents because they were still struggling in those days. There are no jobs for engineers in Rhodesia. It's a primitive country. It was just farming, a lot of farming. I don't want to be a farmer. What should I do? What would you have done if you can't get a job as an engineer?
I would try to find out what people are doing wrong, what problems they have, and try to fix them.
That doesn't give you money.
So what did you do, Elly? What did you do?
I started a business. I never saw myself as a businessman. Although when I look back in my life, I know that in fact I was a businessman, but I never thought I was an engineer. I'm a technical guy. I'm not a businessman. I don't like to run a store or something. So
actually thinking about that, yeah, you were making coffee cups in Kovno and sewing machines, selling them. Then later on, you were in Dachau fixing. Unfortunately, you didn't get paid too much for your work in Dachau. Yeah. Then you're in the monastery, fixing for them. You got bread, some kind of, payout.
They brought me potatoes. The guy helped me survive in Dachau. But now in Rhodesia, what can I do? I know how to repair radios. Engineering, they don't need, but they need radio repairs. So I took a little store. I had no money. I took a little store and I wrote by hand, radio repairs on top, and people brought me radios and I fixed them very quickly and I made money. I opened a bigger store and I put my parents in to sell bicycles and radios. But I don't like retail.
I think we glanced over that a little bit too fast. So we're now in Rhodesia and your parents are your employees. I don't think that happens to many individuals. That must have been a unique experience.
No, we were working together, but I was fixing radios in the shop. I had a corner where I was fixing radios every night. But in daytime, I don't like to be in a store because it's very boring. Never go into retail. You have to sit there and wait for somebody to do you a favor and buy something. Drive me crazy. So I started a sound recording studio. That was more my business. I started sound recording, and there were so many Africans who had beautiful voices and they were singing and they were having orchestras and nobody wanted to record them. So I started to record them and I started to cut vinyl records, one at a time, vinyl records. If you give them a vinyl record, they can go to the record station, record factory, and show them that they have something that's good. And then they start printing records and they get money. So I became their first step to record them music. And that went very well. So after
So wait, we're now going from radios to vinyls to recording music.
no vinyl,
You know, I don't know what happens next, but I'm gonna guess that that can't be the end. There's got to be something that happens next after that.
well, after that, I started another business. I had an idea that the Africans had no entertainment while they were living there in our city. They lived outside town. So I built a van with a projector and a loudspeaker on top. I did it all myself. And I put up a big screen, a 10 by 10 foot screen outdoors, inter area. And I drove up one night. I plugged in my whole van and I was showing films and advertising. And they loved it. It was a dark place. There was nothing there. And suddenly there's light. So the little kids came running and then they went back to call their parents, come. Suddenly I had 500, 1,000 people around the van. That was really fun. That was incredible. So it was so successful because I sold a lot of advertising. So I went.
Elly, I'm just so blown away. I'm always blown away by. I can barely follow along, and this is your life happening at breakneck speed.
Yeah,
and I don't know how you go from tiny radios in Springs to being the Cineplex of Rhodesia and putting on films for individuals.
It worked well, but you see, I couldn't afford to buy films for them because films were very expensive.
So what, did you start making the films?
Yes, I became
Of course you did.
I bought a couple of books and I got a Passe film camera and later I bought a Palard Bolex 16 millimeter and I went out filming their life, the African life. I filmed matches, soccer matches, boxing matches, and I told stories about their life because I read some of their stories. So I told them their stories. Or I made a film, and I made, by the way, all the advertising films myself. I made all the ads. I made stop, you know, I had a spoon pouring out tea, dry tea on a paper, making the name of the tea. And I did it backwards. First, you put it shot by shot, you know, squeeze one film one shot at a time. And when they saw the spoon running around and writing the name of the tea, it was very funny. So anyway, I made a lot of films. Stop. My wife helped me. She used to work the camera one shot at a time while I was moving the spoon all the time. So that kind of thing. So I had a film company and I was having a wonderful time. I
gotta ask another question because I know when you came to Toronto, you then started working in a vinyl binder company. And I feel like this is going to be a no-brainer question, but how did you go now from filming to when you land in Toronto to be like, I want to make binders and I just want to make binders and nothing else?
I got married in Africa, in South Africa. And my wife, we had 3 children, and my wife's family, her 2 brothers, started a factory making vinyl products. And I came just at the time that they needed because vinyl is welded by electronics. It's electronic radio waves are passed through vinyl and a die squeezes it and cuts it off.
Yeah, via point heating, right? By applying the electricity at the very point, you get a high source of heat that allows it to melt and mold together.
That's right. It happens very quickly, very quickly. So we had a factory. We started a factory and it became very successful in time. So now I started to campaign that we should leave Africa because I hated South Africa. I hated the race relations and the way they lived and the way they treated people. We were very well off. We were doing fine, but I couldn't stand it. So I said, let's go to another country. And in 1964, we came to Canada. I brought out 13 people, our whole family, my wife's mother and my parents and her brothers and the family of the brother. So we came to Canada and we started the same kind of factory, vinyl heat sealing. But we discovered that Canadian standard of heat sealing wasn't half as good as ours. We knew much more about it than they did. They were not doing nice products here, very cheap products. It looked terrible.
So you saw another business opportunity then?
We saw a business, but you know, it takes 7 years to build a good company. I find it takes, in most companies, it takes 7 years. We nearly went bankrupt. The first we started off was okay, but later, after 2 years, when we lost all our money, the bank was good enough to lend us more and said, you are very profitable, but you don't sell enough. Get out and start selling. So I went out selling. I became the top salesman. I traveled across the United States and I spoke at every seminar I could get in. And I didn't charge them. But when I left, I had $30,000 business in my pocket. So
I hope businesses don't take 7 years anymore, because as you know, I'm building my own business with colleagues from the UK. And I think the difference now versus then is there's just so much more support for entrepreneurs to build their businesses, both in terms of funding, but also technical expertise. And as you know, the business I'm building, we're working on developing machine learning algorithms for early detection of lung cancer. And we do this by processing blood samples over a time series to look for how these metabolites change over time, and if there's a pattern that can indicate if someone might be developing cancer again.
You need artificial intelligence for that to examine thousands and thousands of samples, right?
Our panels are multi-thousand, and we use various techniques and spectrographic analyses such as mass spectrometry, where you're measuring the weight of these elements, where we use certain dyes, light-based dyes that bind to the elements in the body, and then we can measure the different emittance of light and the degree of that to determine how much of that metabolite's in the blood. And then, like you mentioned, taking now all that data from those different sources, we need something smarter than ourselves. We need a robot, right? The machine learning algorithm to process that and see if there's any correlations between those data, and also other factors such as your age, your demographic. So I was gonna say, I'm hoping that goes a bit faster than 7 years, but I'll definitely be checking in with you every so often to get your input on definitely selling. We're not there yet, but hopefully one day we'll be selling, and I'm definitely gonna go to you because the ability of you to tell stories is out of this world. You can sell anything, and I definitely will need you then. So I might have to contract you in a few years, if that's okay.
I'm very interested. I want to know how you are doing it, because I'm fascinated by anything that's developing that's new. There's so much to learn now.
Hopefully, I was gonna say, hopefully we sell our product by then, right?
Yeah.
You wanna maybe talk a little bit about the product that you kind of experienced and then how we started working on it?
Yeah, well, any product that anybody makes can be made better and cheaper tomorrow. You see, that's my logo, my belief. Anything you see can be improved. Henry Ford said years ago, he said, anything we make today can be made cheaper and better tomorrow. He believed that, and I believe that too. So when you approach a problem, you've got to look at it from all sides. You must examine it. You must think, as they call it, outside the box very often, because in the box, everybody's in the box. You've got to be outside the box to get something different. So when we developed, for example, the ring binders you mentioned, we made ring binders. What kind of business is ring binders? School binders? No, we didn't make school binders. We were making catalogs for companies. In fact, I have a photograph here. You want to see?
Yeah, if you have it.
I have it. If you let me in, just a moment. I'll show you.
I'm gonna say, Elly, are you wearing your other invention? Your neck invention?
Wait a minute. Let me
show. Yes.
Here is a ring fitting. Everybody has seen that ring, right? Not a round ring in a binder, but an angle.
Mm-hmm.
Canada and America has to thank me and my company for that, because we brought it from Germany, and it was very funny. I went to Germany to buy these ring fittings, and we used to buy the regular round rings, you see, and the round rings work like that. Here's a round ring. So we went to Germany and they showed us a ring like that. So I said, that's very interesting. And I immediately could see the potential for it. I said, I will buy it if you give me the exclusive right for North America. They said, Mr. Gotz, you can have it for the whole world. We can't sell it. I said, I'll take North America, is enough for me. And we started. You see the advantage. Look how big a ring has to be. You can make it much smaller because it's vertical. And because it's mounted on the back cover, not on the spine, when you open the binder, you don't have to move all the pages around so they don't wear out. And later, they showed us the Super Combi. So we bought that. That makes an even smaller binder for the pages, and they lie at an angle. So all the index tabs can be seen one above the other.
You know what? So I've always used these rings, and I guess I have to thank you for my elementary and high school, because they made the difference. Every time I had a round ring, it would rip, and I would go to my mother always to be like, buy me the slanted rings. And I love how such a simple element, there's so much complexity in it, like you were saying, considering it being on the binder spine versus on the bottom and allowing the pages to be flat. And then also the number of pages that can be added now just because of that small change.
Right.
It's really interesting to think about these little features.
Have you seen one of those? Have you seen one of those, Daniel?
Is that like a half? No, I haven't seen one of those.
It's an easel binder, We invented it. We make it with a fold in the middle. So when you read it, you don't have to look down on the page. You can look at an angle of 45 degrees to the page. And you know, we didn't even bother to patent it. We just started to manufacture them. And some people needed them because instruction manuals can't take up a whole table because you are working on a table. You want this to stand in front of you while you are reading instructions. So it became very popular.
Oh, wow. I never knew you made that.
Yeah, we made that, all kinds. Then we also had, we invented a new kind of printing plastic on plastic. You see, this is plastic squeezed into the other plastic of this one. You see how beautiful. Nobody had that. It's called applique. Nobody had that kind of printing. And we created beautiful binders, beautiful ring binders.
And how did you apply those plastics? Did you use, once again, electricity to heat and fuse them?
How do you mean? I'm sorry.
How did you bind those plastics?
It's done all with electronic heat. Electronic heat comes down and welds, like this is a raised print. You see, this is a raised print, and this is printed silk screen printing. And we had artists. We were the only company in ring binder business who had a full art shop. So we could design beautiful binders like that. They were gorgeous. We won every gold prize in Canada and America for every show we went. Gold, silver, and bronze. People used to laugh at us. They used to say, there come the gold, silver, and bronze people. You see, Pliatron. This is Welder Plastics was my company. And we developed all kinds of elegant designs like printing, shadow printing, you know. So we had
How did you come up with the name, Elly? Weldo.
Weldo, because it's welding plastics.
So it was a no-brainer, okay.
it was our company in South Africa, and it was our company here. And after 15 years, I was finished. I said, let's sell. And we sold it very well because we had a company in Chicago as well. We bought a bankrupt company in Chicago, and a year later it was very profitable. And then it grew much faster than Canada because it's a bigger market. I made every sales manual in Detroit for every car maker, every one.
Wow.
Chevrolet, Buick, Oldsmobile, and every company's catalogs for selling cars were made in Toronto for the whole of the United States.
Elly, did you ever think about like taking a vacation or a break along the way?
No, vacations are boring unless you... I like camping. I used to go camping with a tent with the kids.
I love camping too. Some of my fondest memories are in Algonquin, just the beauty of nature. I love fishing and also just taking some time off and not having my cell phone ring. I imagine that wasn't a problem back then, but it is a problem now.
Let me tell you, fishing, if you want to go to Africa, on the Zambezi River, you catch tiger fish, a huge fish. And
I thought you caught something else in Rhodesia.
Yeah, I was hunting crocodiles. Crocodiles are very crocodiles have a very expensive skin, you know.
See, this is why Esme is always worried about you. Whenever I see her, she's always saying, "What are you getting my husband involved in?" Like the time you came to me to go skydiving, you were having lunch. I remember at the MRH Research Center, and you look at me, you're like, "I want to go skydiving for Canada's 150th birthday, but my family doesn't want to go with me. No one wants to go with me." And you tell me, I'm like, "Okay, I'll go with you." And then I get a call from Esme the next day saying, "What are you influencing my husband to do?"
We jumped on the airplane, both of us. I'm proud of you. You were willing to go with me.
No, well, you had a great value proposition. You were telling me how the technology of skydiving has advanced so much that I don't even need to land on my legs. I can just drift in softly on my bum and just relax there on the grass.
Right. And if you fly with an instructor, it's his bum, not yours.
Even better. Yeah, that was a great day. I remember staying the whole day. We were actually delayed, I think. And we had like almost 6 hours to hang out. We had a little picnic. CBC and a ton of news agencies arrived. I remember I couldn't even really, for a little bit, like a good hour, I couldn't even talk to you. It was like, I was like, everyone just wants to see Elly. And I just remember thinking my friend's a superstar.
Oh, it was fun. At 89, they didn't want to take me, you know. They said, it's a bit too old now to jump. I said, I'm healthy, I'm okay, look at me. So they said, okay.
You know what was funny after that? I remember thinking to myself, every time you contact me, you have some crazy idea or something to do. And I remember the next phone call I got from you was about 6 months later. And you were telling me about your procedure with the catheter. And now you have this idea to develop a special type of catheter.
Well,
and
you,
sorry, I don't want to steal your thunder here. You want to say a little bit about that idea that now we're working on together?
Yeah. And I was in hospital. I had an operation, and I had blood in the bladder. So it started to coagulate, and they couldn't pump it out. It was a problem. So I thought that we should apply sound energy to break up the blood. And I applied for a patent, and you are a partner with me because you are helping me to run the tests. But so far, I haven't managed to sell it. I must tell you, I've tried a lot of companies, and they somehow, I don't know, they are not with it.
I remember that day when you came to me because, you know, I work in the MRI field and I've also had some work in ultrasound. And I just remember thinking to myself, I'm reading a paper about focus ultrasound for various ablation techniques. And you come to me, you're like, I want to do focus ultrasound. I'm like, Elly, are you sure about this? And then you start telling me the math that you calculated. You start telling me about the designs that you have. And I'm like, okay, give me a second. And then I go run your math. I'm like, this is all working out quite well. I'm like, this could be something. And I remember, borrowing a frequency generator from my laboratory so that we could do some tests at home. I got some rabbit blood from some of the subjects.
Let me tell you, it was such a problem getting blood. I needed blood to test it.
I remember.
I went to a guy who runs the blood system for collection blood here in Canada. He lives in my building. I said to him, could you get me a pint or two of blood? He said, I couldn't even get you 1 ounce of blood. It's not allowed. You can't have it. I said, okay, I'll have to get pig's blood. He says, go and get pig's blood. I found a butchery, not a butchery, but a killing place, what do you call it, in Hamilton. And I called them up.
Slaughterhouse.
A slaughterhouse. I said, can I have some pig's blood? They said, how many gallons do you want? So I said, no, I just want a little bit, like 10 ounces. What do you need it for? I said, for some experiments we are doing. He said, oh, I don't know if I can give it to you. He's got a problem. When you want a little bit of blood, no. To make sausage out of blood, okay, but not for...
Well, luckily I had some
Luckily,
contacts.
you had some rabbit blood. I said, okay,
Yeah.
rabbit blood.
Yeah, luckily I had some contacts and I was doing some experiments with rabbits, and we were testing them, doing some MRI images, and we always have to take a little bit of blood beforehand to see if there's any toxins in their blood, any toxins in there. So I was like, afterwards I asked my professor, can I take a little of this blood extra? And there was no problem, right? So it's, I'm glad that we were able to get that.
Have I shown you that?
No, what is that?
An invention. This is something that I made.
Elly, we have one invention already. Let's sell that invention and then we'll work on another one.
Yeah, this one I made to hang it inside the toilet bowl on the weight above the flap valve to slow down the flow of water, to close up the valve earlier. Because in Europe, they've got two buttons, everybody, for a big flush and a small flush. I said, we have to do that, but I don't want to replace the toilet. So I invented this and I wrote it up and I made it out of zinc, and you drop it in. And then if you flash and you hold the finger down for a second or two, then you get a big flash. But if you press and you let go, you get a small flash to save water.
The Gotz environmental toilet. I love it. Can you send me one so I don't have to buy a new toilet as well?
You know, nobody would buy it. I offered it to Toronto. They all said, we want to save water. They've got a whole department saving water. I showed them there what I have. They said, very interesting. And then they said, no, we don't buy it. And then the chief of water told the city council, we want to save water, but we can't save too much water because otherwise our budget will go to hell.
I don't know. My dad is a civil engineer for the city of Toronto, specifically in wastewater management. And he says we need to change our system. It's antiquated. We have a lot of waste.
I want to talk to your dad.
Yeah, I was gonna say we were supposed to come over for some Polish sausage at my parents' house, but the pandemic then hit. But yeah, actually, one little interesting fact, and I don't know, this might disgust people a little bit, but we have such a bad system that whenever there's a large rain, such as today, we actually can't process the sewage. And so we have to open it up and we release it all into Lake Ontario. And that's why often you see right after spring and summer, there's advisories for, E. coli warnings in the water. And it's because of that sewage runoff, because we just can't handle the flow. And there's very simple fixes. It's just because our system has been set up that you can't separate and compartmentalize different parts of the sewage. So when different areas of the city get overrun, we shut down the whole system.
Interesting.
And that is a big problem. So Elly, and now that you have another problem, if you come up with a solution, let my father know, because he also just wrote up a patent to help with flooding in basements. So maybe you guys can come up with a solution to this sewage overflow problem.
Oh, I don't know. But this, I couldn't sell it, nobody wanted to buy it. I went to California to sell it because California was very short of water. You remember a few years ago, they were very short.
Yeah, we had avocado shortages because of that, because avocados are very water intensive and they couldn't water their avocados.
The governor of California at the time said, citizens, you've got to save 10% of water. Please save 10%. Well, I showed them, I've got proof from a laboratory that this can save 10% of water easy. I went to California. I said, who makes water? Who supplies the water? They said, oh, it's all private companies. Private companies, that's bad news. I went to see them, two of them, and both of them said, that's very interesting, leave it with us. Nothing. They want to sell more water, not less water.
Yeah, that's the important part. And you know what? It's a problem that's not going away anytime soon. I can't remember if it was Detroit or where it was, but they also had a water scarcity, and different agencies had to come in to provide water. There was different places in Europe that also had water scarcity problems, and they put out a message to their citizens to take self-agency to basically conserve water, or we wouldn't have enough. And it was actually an amazing act of the community. They came together and they all reduced their water consumption to the point where the city didn't have to go dry. And initially the city was predicting they were going to go dry in a month. and they were able to push it to 2 months, then 3 months, and multiple years later, and it's okay now. So it's really a combination of not just a technological solution, but also social activism and making sure we understand, making sure there's political pressures to enforce this. And like you said, when there's private companies doing this in California, it's very difficult to bring that to fruition, that kind of future goal.
Yeah, there are all kinds of things. I mean, water is one of the biggest issue of humanity because so many parts are now with heating up, getting even less water. And it's they have big problems in Africa, all over, terrible. Yeah, we need more help with water.
Elly, that I'm just so blown away. I've said it already multiple times, but I'll also say every time I talk to you, just the fact that no matter your age, your environment, or stage of life, you're always applying this like entrepreneurial mindset, this thinking like there's a problem, but rather than just complaining about the problem and forgetting about it, you're like, I'm going to come up with a solution to every single problem I experience in life, and it's so motivating. And I remember that even during the MRH. As you were going through and you were telling me about all these experiences, and I just thought to myself that, if you can have this drive in one of the most toughest parts of your life, I can then accomplish anything as well. And it always provided me so much motivation, Elly. So really thank you for that, for being my mentor and then becoming my friend. And, I hope, and business partner now. So I hope through friendship and business, we can continue to do amazing things together.
Yeah, let's hope so.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Remember, we are engineers. Engineers are on this world to fix problems and to build new things. That's engineering. That's what we've been trained to do, and that is what we must do. And look sideways. Don't be very narrow. That's the main thing.
Yeah, I think that's my problem. I went into my PhD and I just became very narrow focused. And the second, when I finished my PhD, I've already done I've been working as a consultant, as you know, and I've already worked for 3 or 4 different companies. And it's really opened my eyes to other aspects. I worked on a company developing thermal phase change materials for heat storage so that you can wear a jacket that builds up heat in your home and then releases it when you walk outside. Then I worked for a digital medical company that was developing software as a service for doctors. Now I'm working for this startup developing machine learning algorithms, and I'm also a little bit on the side. I don't know if I've told you about this, but I'm also working for doing a consulting contract for a cryptocurrency exchange right now in Hong Kong. Yeah.
I didn't hear. What did you say? What?
I'm working for a cryptocurrency exchange in Hong Kong right now. Doing a contract. No, you don't want to do cryptocurrency? I swear you told me a year ago you invested in Bitcoin.
Yes, but don't stick your head too deep in it.
So what happened to your investments?
Make sure you get paid, that's all.
Yeah, they do pay me in crypto, so it's kind of interesting. But it's just a short contract until August. But I really took your advice afterwards. I remember we were talking about after my PhD, I was talking to you like, what should I do? And I remember your advice with, don't limit yourself. Do whatever you want to do and just change it up and constantly learn. And I remember thinking to myself like that was a little bit scary to get that kind of advice because, you've been in a PhD for so long. I want to start having a family, but it was the right thing I needed to hear at the right time because it really allowed me to take on these different opportunities. And I've learned so much and I don't ever want to stop. So hopefully, in 70 years, I'll have the same stories as you from one experience to another.
You will. You'll have some amazing stories. You'll have some amazing failures and amazing successes.
I'm hoping fewer failures, but yes, yeah.
Don't get upset by failure. Failure, something doesn't work. Like once I started a computer company, actually, after I sold the plastics company. And I had an interesting project. I can't tell you now. We are coming to the end. But I had everything ready. I invested, I put it, and that's when IBM came out with a microcomputer and killed my business. I closed it up and I immediately went to another business.
Was this the business where you developed a patent for how to store a computer inside a desk?
Yes.
Maybe that's I think we're kind of running at the end of our time here. So maybe that's a story for another time.
Can you see the picture? Can you see the picture?
No, I don't see any picture.
Okay, I'll show it to you. I'll share the picture. Can you see now? This is a patent of the United States of America.
Yes. Yeah, this is your computer cabinet. Yes.
That's the cabinet. I'll show you the cabinet. Here's a cabinet drawing. You see, I put the computer at an angle here. I had a keyboard here, the keyboard here, and the paper that you are reading here, and the screen was there. And it was a very beautiful cabinet, very successful. And my partners were shouting, Elly, go to a patent attorney right away. So I did. I said, wait, let's make it first and start selling and see if it goes. No, get a patent. That patent cost me $26,000. And it took 2.5 years, 23 months. In the meantime, I made 200 of them and I sold them like hotcakes. And then it was finished because IBM came with a new computer that stood on the floor, didn't have to go on the table anymore. So I spent $26,000. I made $40,000 on the sales. It cost me I made nothing because of the company.
Elly, Jason was just saying it was the first standing desk. It's getting popular again. People don't want to be sitting down anymore. So maybe you can bring it back out of the closet and start selling it again.
No. No, that's not. It's not worth it. Yeah. Oh, these were other ideas I had at the Holocaust Center. I made the pictures sliding. I invented this idea so that they could slide. All kinds. Here's the water saver. Savvy water saver, you see? All kinds of ideas.
Wait, Elly, could you go back to the water saver for a little bit?
Hey?
For a second? Can you go back to the water saver?
Yeah.
Your locking mechanism is really
locks.
Unique. Yeah, I love that design.
Yeah, it locks and the string, the wire goes through it. So it lies on top of the flap valve.
To hold it down, yeah.
Oh, I had such fun. I made a little film showing how it works, everything, but I couldn't sell it.
When did you invent this one, Elly?
Oh, it was a number of years ago, must be 8 years ago.
You also invented, if I recall correctly, the chain that you hold your
this one,
hearing aids together. No,
that's it for my hearing aids.
Yes, yeah.
Hearing aids, and I kept losing them. I went into a subway and I came back with one instead of two. So now I make the chain. I make it like that. I made a chain and I throw it on, and it's wonderful. I've never lost one again.
Like I said, Elly, just never ceases to amaze me how you never stop to fix every problem in your life. Yeah. I imagine your children had unique solutions to a lot of things too.
Yeah, my son is a computer guy. He's very good. He's very good. He's in California now. Yeah, we have fun. We have fun. I made the fan. I showed you the fan in my house for the. Anyway, forget it.
No, I remember the fan. That's my favorite spot to sit in your house, just because it's so cool. It's right by your chairs as well. Yes. Oh, Elly, I can't wait to see what idea. I can't wait for the next phone call I get from you with the next idea that you want to test, and try to figure out. And I'm always willing to test it out with you and figure it out, even if it fails. Like you said, it's more about the journey than the end goal.
Right. And I wish you much success in what you are doing. You are now working on some very interesting field, which will have a great influence in medical field.
Thank you. Yeah, I think that's the goal. Is like I really want to, the Canadian government has helped me out so much by helping me through school, providing me subsidies, and I really want to give back to my country. And if I can do that through the biomedical field and have a positive impact on someone's health and even one person, right? And the way I see it is that with this next role that I've been working on, where I've become so invested in it, is that cancer has such a devastating impact on not only that individual that has it, but also their family. And to be able to even help that one person to catch it early and prevent that, that would bring me so much joy in my life. And I think I think I'm going to settle for a couple of years and try to really bring this project to fruition and really make an impact, hopefully, knock on wood, you know, because entrepreneurship, even though it's a little bit easier now than it was back in your day, there's always challenges, there's long days, and you never know where you're going. And I think the analogy someone once told me, entrepreneurship is like going for a hike, but being the first person to ever do that hike. So the first person to climb Mount Everest. You don't know what path is there. You don't even know if there is a path to the top, if you can make it to the top.
And you also
you
don't, and you don't know. You also don't know if there's a guy ahead of you.
You don't know if they're on the other side of the mountain. You're right. It's a big task sometimes. So yeah, I really appreciate that. Hopefully I get there, and hopefully I'll have good stories to tell you as it goes along.
Yes, keep in touch. Keep in touch.
Yes. So I guess, you know, we're going past our hour, as we always do, because we can't stop talking, both of us. Does anyone else have any questions, or anyone want to join in on some conversation at this time? Let me just look at the chat. Oh, thank you, Deandra, for that. That's very sweet. I can't, so a little fun story, me and Dee, I was supposed to visit her in Winnipeg for a competition, but didn't get to, so hopefully I'll get to do that soon. But sorry, there's another question?
Hannah has a question, I think.
You have each taught me so much about the power of intergenerational friendship across time and space over the years. What is the most surprising thing you have learned from one another? The most surprising thing that I learned from Elly is to never underestimate Elly. Like I said, whether it's from designing a necklace to hold your headphones to a complex mathematics for determining how to focus ultrasonic waves to disrupt blood clots. You are just an amazing individual, and your mind goes in places I can never expect. And I think that drive for constant curiosity, constant striving to solve problems has been such a motivator, and I've learned so much from you, and to always keep pushing.
And I also gained a lot. Going there to Poland and standing in a gas chamber with 30 of you guys, I know that you've come out, you are different. It had such a deep effect on you, on the fellow students there, going there and seeing and discussing with people who are sometimes not close related to Jewish affairs at all. And I had the pleasure of talking to Muslims and to Christians and to others. And it affected me deeply too, you know. I had a deep love and feeling for the people I traveled with, for all of you. I enjoyed it in a way. It was sometimes not, the joy is not a good word, but it was a feeling of belonging to you. I enjoyed being with you.
And yeah, and the same for me. It was, you know, meeting you, Elly, I didn't know what to think. I had never met a Holocaust survivor, and I didn't know what to expect. And in every setting, I learned so much from you in terms of your experience. But once again, also your drive to persevere. And even in the darkest days, you could make joy. And I think I remember you telling me, the moment you stop believing is the moment you died in the Holocaust. And that endless hope and belief is just so inspirational. And I think that's something that, like I said, I've always thought about, is that, you know, if you can get through such an experience, and if so many different individuals, so many people can push through an experience, you know, I can channel that in any part of my life, and in helping others, and having an impact on others as well. And I think that was the biggest message I learned from MRH, is the love outstands, pushes past everything. And like you said, hate just putting that away, and love is much more stronger than hate ever will be.
Daniel, you're a very special guy. I love you. And I look forward to working with you as long as my feet carry me.
I love you too, Elly. Same here. I can't wait to keep doing every venture.
Jason, where's Jason? Jason, come forward.
Hi. Yeah, it's so good to listen to you both in conversation.
Thank you, Jason, for organizing all this. Thank you very much for doing it.
Oh, it's all both of you. You have a lot. I don't know. Your friendship and the way you can just jump in yeah, your excitement is palpable. I love it.
You mean our ability to not stay focused on one topic and talk about 20 different things at once? Our phone calls are terrible. Just nonstop, 20 different topics. I hope people could follow along. So I apologize for all those listening.
Give us more topics. More topics is good.
I too want to thank you, Jason and Carla and Gazelle, for all the work you did behind the scenes organizing this. MRH is an amazing organization with an even more amazing community behind it. And I hope I can help and contribute to as many events as I can in the future.
Well, bye-bye, everybody. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great rest of your Tuesday.
Bye-bye.
Thank you both. We'll take care.